Some of the most challenging cases that we work with are what some would determine or call high conflict, where the parties really have a hard time agreeing on anything. This is almost synonymous with where there's a lack of trust, a lack of common ground, a lack of ability to come to agreements. Usually that goes with a lot of blame, accusations, vitriol, shouting, angry emails, and the like. And so people often wonder, well, how does that affect the court's ability and the court's behavior in the parenting time decisions and parental responsibilities? And the answer is in many ways, right? And it tends to be individualized to the case. Even high conflict divorces, they're not all the same, and the conflict arises in different ways. I've certainly experienced cases where there's a huge amount of conflict around property, but where the parents are actually able to work relatively well together to co-parent, and vice versa, where the parties are absolutely unable to co-parent on even the simplest things, but really don't care that much or are in fine agreement regarding financial things. And then the more common one, which is they just can't agree on anything. In that circumstance, the court is going to be looking very, very carefully at each party's ability to promote a positive relationship between the child and the other parent. So when it comes to parenting time, is each parent, during their time with the child, the way they see it, the way the court sees it, during the child's time with them, going to continue to nurture and promote a positive relationship between the child and the parent who's not there? Will the child be able to take phone calls? Will the child be able to otherwise communicate with the parent? Will the child be able to exist in this parent's house without hearing and dealing with disparagement and negative comments about the other parent? These are all things the court will carefully look at, because the court understands and believes, the court will understand and believe that it is not in the best interest of the child to be exposed to and involved in the conflict between the parents. And that includes being made to feel less than for having positive feelings about the other parent. That is a big no-no, and a big thing that the courts will consider in a high conflict divorce. Regarding decision-making, the courts are also unlikely to try to force parents to collaborate and joint decision-making. In a high conflict situation, the court is more likely to divide decision-making and perhaps give, in an otherwise equally bad situation, give one parent two or more aspects of decision-making and then split the other two or more with the other parent, so that each party has their own lane, if you will, as to where they are primary on their decisions. And as to each one, the court will need to make a finding as to why it's in the best interest of the child to award the parent, let's say, education, and the other parent religion, and this parent healthcare, and the other parent extracurricular. It can't just be willy-nilly. There have to be reasons for it. But, high conflict divorces make everything more difficult, make the court's job more difficult, make cases last longer and cost more. And so that's why it is important, wherever possible, to find a way to keep the power, keep the ability to make the best decisions for yourself and for your family, and not hand it over to a court who's going to make that decision in the short amount of time that they've got to pay attention to your case before they move on to the next one. What is the best way to co-parent with a high conflict ex-spouse? Now, I already can sense that many of you have answered that question for yourselves in a not very helpful way. And I get it, I really do. But here's the answer, and you may not like it. Get over yourself. That's the answer. Your spouse might be a jerk. Might be strong words that I'm not going to use here. And I'm not trying to take that away from you. I'm not trying to make them right, and I don't need to make you wrong. But what I would ask that you do is that you shift your focus. Because the fact that they are who they are, and that your relationship is what it is, isn't going to be changed by divorce. What can be changed, the only thing that can be changed, because I often counsel my clients that if you're hanging your hopes on changing the other side, changing the other party, you're going to be waiting a long, long time. But the one thing you can change is your own perspective. And to refocus that perspective entirely on the best interests of your child. What is best for them? Is conflict best for them? Almost certainly not. Is putting them in the middle of conflict and making them feel less than for having positive feelings about their other parent best for them? Almost certainly not. It often takes a lot of energy, a lot of gumption to understand and realize that until your child reaches the age of majority, you're co-parenting with this other party. And your child will be best served by making it possible, by making them okay, by giving them the best environment in life that you can while they're with you, and by making them feel safe when they're not, by promoting a positive relationship between them and their other parent, because it's their other parent. In a high conflict divorce, this is even more important. You've got to set your own feelings aside. You've got to set your own injuries aside. And I understand they're real, and your pain is real, and what they did to you is real. And to the extent that that puts the child in danger, you should give up nothing and you fight. But to the extent it was between you and the other party, and this is the party with whom you've had a child, and that child is going to spend time with this other party, you got to set all that aside and promote that relationship. That is what's in the child's best interest in a high conflict divorce. And you just wait for them to come home.